the half-cock bolt modification right now on Pirate Firearms and Reloading. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I've been meaning to do a video specifically on this little modification for a while. I did cover it both in the review of this MDT HNT 26 or Hunt 26 chassis. As you can see, it's had a camo paint job. And I also talked about it in my video, the best bush hunting rifle. So this is the same barrel receiver as that video. It's just now in the Hunt 26 chassis. Thank you to the commenter the other day who jogged my memory, and I wrote it back down on the list of videos to shoot. So what the modification does is allow you to apply the safety in this half cock position here. Obviously still safe, won't fire. As well as the factory default, which is when you apply the safety, it locks the bolt closed. So it's an added measure of safety, if you like. Bush hunting, particularly in the North Island here in New Zealand, for a very long time, people have kept their bolt at that half cock position. It's quite often quieter than removing the safety on some rifles. Some rifles, like some of the Remington 700s and that, the safety is notoriously hard to get to. For example, the Ruger American, I've got one of those, and that tang safety is actually quite noisy. It's quite hard to get around operating that without making a lot of noise. This Tikka safety, if I jump around and actually manipulate it with my right hand, where I can remove the safety and close the bolt without making a whole lot of noise. It's a good way to have yourself as close to ready as possible while still having a firearm in a relatively safe condition. It's also a good visual thing for your hunting companions or other hunters you might meet out there that, hey look, yeah, I'm hunting, but I'm still being safe. We're just gonna go over how it works, what you need to do, and I'm gonna stress this, consult a gunsmith. I'm only showing you what is done. I'm not recommending you do this yourself. So with that little warning out of the way, let's remove the bolt and I'll show you what's going on. So this hole here is the factory hole in a Tikka bolt. So all Tikka centerfire T3 and T3x rifles have this little hole bored in the bolt body from factory. And what that does, if you look down here, you can see, if I wiggle the trigger, you can see the sear move there. Just in front here, almost, God, that's terrible, almost directly in line with the bolt handle, you can see a little round pin that's retracted. When you apply the safety, that pin raises up. So it's like a little detent. That little detent in there is exactly what locks the bolt when the safety is applied. Now, excuse the shaky footage. I'm gonna show you again, just handheld. So when you apply the safety, that little pin comes up, and when you remove the safety, that pin goes down again. Now, you notice when I flick this up, the pin bounced. So this is actually a two-stage trigger in here. So for hunting, I prefer a two-stage trigger. For target shooting, I prefer a single-stage trigger. So what I've done is I've taken the two-stage out of my Tikka TAC A1 and placed it in this rifle here. And then I've taken the single-stage that was in this rifle and put it into the TAC A1. So this is why this pin bounces, because the TAC A1 actually has another little bar in here which allows you to push this pin down and manipulate the bolt while the firearm is still on safe. So it doesn't fit inside these chassis here without doing some filing work, and I decided I didn't want that feature anyway. So I've just removed that little extra safety bar off there. So you can now see where that detent is, how it behaves, and what causes it to lock the bolt. So now the next conclusion we've got to draw is that we need another hole in the bolt. So as I mentioned, that hole there is the factory Tikka bolt safety detent hole. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? Right. I have now added another hole. Now, if I put this straight as I possibly can, you notice that they're not aligned. That's because a standard bolt like this, a cock-on opening bolt, is a helical camming bolt. And when you start to unlock it, the bolt is actually traveling rearwards. And when you close it, the bolt is traveling forward, going into its final position in battery and setting the correct headspace. So they will be off center. Now, don't just go willy-nilly drilling holes in the bottom of your bolt. Like I said, consult a professional. So what your professional is going to do, there's a product called bearing blue. And what it is, it's blue, funnily enough, and it's a sort of wet marker type stuff. Comes in a tube. I believe they even make like marker pens with it now. And so what I did is I simply put some on top of that detent inside the receiver with the safety detent retracted, so the safety off. Brought the bolt in, set it in the half cock position, and then tried to engage the safety. What that does is it pushes the pin up against the underside of the bolt body and leaves the bearing blue on the bolt body. Then I can release the safety again, retracting the pin, slide the bolt out, and I can see perfectly where it's marked. Now, you could do a very similar thing with wet paint and anything like that. Bearing blue is used when you're trying to fit, say, for example, a bearing inside a race that is slightly worn or is warped or something like that. It allows you to sort of push fit. You see where the bearing blue isn't contacting, and it's being removed, and it gives you an indication of what's going on. So it's a specialist engineering product. You probably will find it in a decent, large hardware store if you like. So that's how you're going to mark it out. Wet paint, like I said, would probably do the trick. The only problem is you may end up wiping some of it away when you go and retract the bolt. You'd have to be a little bit careful about that. What I'm referring to is painting the top of the safety detent and then engaging it up, marking the bottom of the bolt. So from there, the bolt needs to be disassembled. So you can get tools to disassemble your bolt. Basically, all you'll be left with is the actual bolt body itself, the spring, firing pin, rear shroud, handle, everything comes out. You can leave the ejector and extract it in there, provided you keep them clean. From there, and this is where my warning comes in, bolts are hardened. You can't just put this in a drill and drill into it. It won't work. So you either need, carbide drills or something like that to be able to bore into metal like this. You need to have it clamped firmly in a drill press, cutting fluid, the whole 9 yards. So this is not a DIY job at home. If you're a, fitter and turner or something along those lines, you'll be fairly confident in doing this. You've probably already worked out how to do it by now and you're not watching this video. But I strongly suggest you take your firearm to a gunsmith and get them to do it professionally. If you find a gunsmith not willing to make this modification, I suggest you find a better gunsmith. All the gunsmiths here in New Zealand offer this particular service, but they always want the receiver and the bolt because you never quite know the tolerances exactly. You probably could just about make a template for these days, but it's not worth drilling your bolt and finding out you've done it wrong. Because every time you work and drill this bolt, you do actually weaken it a little bit. Now, you'll also notice that the hole that I have made versus the factory hole is actually a little bit smaller. That's because I measured exactly, whereas this bolt body will be manufactured to a certain tolerance and this hole will be larger. This is why when you apply the safety in the bolt close position, there is quite a bit of movement in this bolt, which can potentially rattle, right? In the half cock position, there is a lot less movement and almost no rattle, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want this thing to sit there and rattle around as I'm trying to stalk up on something and give my position away. So folks, that is the half cock safety bolt modification. Please, once again, consult your gunsmith. Get them to do it professionally. For the minimal amount of work that's required, they're not going to charge you an arm and a leg, and at least you know it's done right. So, as always, if you've got any questions, please hit me up in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Only about 3% of you guys are subscribed that are watching this content. It's free. Hit the button down there, select the notifications, toggle it to all. It really helps the channel out and it allows me to continue making this content. Until next time, happy shooting.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Catch you next time.